What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 83. We got Yadong going against Chris Gutierrez.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all it is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back breaking down another card. This week we are breaking down UFC Vegas 83, a card that was supposed to take place in China, a card that has been moved to the Apex, a card that had 10 fights on it up until last night, a card that is not amazing. But yeah, we got a fight card on Saturday, so we are going to enjoy it. We're going to watch it. It's better than no fights at all, but my goodness, some of these fights just don't really make a ton of sense. But yeah, looking forward to breaking it down. As always, I think it's going to be a fun card as always. Before we get into it, if you guys could please do me a favor, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. This video is brought to you by Prize Picks. I'll be getting out my Prize Picks video later in the week. If you guys want to check out Prize Picks, use promo code DFSBTN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And then if you guys want extra content, be sure to check out dfsbythenumbers.com. That's where you'll find all my other content that is not on YouTube. But yeah, going to be going through these fights. Was able to get ahead, ahead of all these fights, and yeah, so getting this video out kind of early. So with all that out of the way, I say we get into it, and we're going to start with the first fight of the night, a fight that looks pretty familiar, and it's going to be Mel Costa going against Steve Garcia. We got Mel Costa, 31 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach, 14-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Steve Garcia, 27 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 20-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. The reason this feels so familiar is because I broke it down last week. These guys were supposed to fight. Steve Garcia pulled out like weigh-in day. Not sure when, maybe like an hour or so before the weigh-in. So yeah, apparently he had like a sickness. So yeah, they rebooked the fight to this card, I think, to help out this card because this card did need a lot of help. And yeah, this is a great fight. I mean, this fight being on the card automatically probably is a top 3 fight. So I think this fight being on the card is much needed here. But yeah, I broke this down last week. Nothing's really changed. I guess the only thing that has changed is, what's up with Steve Garcia, what was going on with him that he had to pull out of the fight. But apparently it was nothing that bad because they are going to be fighting here on Saturday. So there has been some interesting line movement. So Mel Costa was around like minus 230 or so last week prior to the fight, and then now he's minus 275. And again, I think a lot of that has to do with the whole Steve Garcia pulling out sick, question marks on his side. But yeah, the breakdown hasn't really changed. Steve Garcia, killer be killed fighter. This guy has, I think, 5 knockdowns for and 5 knockdowns against in the UFC. This guy's been dropped 5 times in his 5 professional fights, which is not good. I don't think Steve Garcia has the best chin, getting dropped multiple times by guys like Charlie Ontiveros. So yeah, Mel Costa is the guy that looked incredible in his last fight against Austin Lingo. He hit Austin Lingo with some big shots. Austin Lingo just next level tough. I think Lingo's a lot more durable than Steve Garcia because, if Mel Costa is landing some of those same shots he landed on Lingo, I think he goes out there and finishes Garcia, and I think it's early as well. But yeah, Garcia's been looking good. He's been flashing power. I'm a big fan of both guys here, but I like Costa, the more durable guy. I think he has a lot of tools on the feet, and I think he lands something big here and knocks out Steve Garcia in the very first round. And the whole pulling out sickness type thing only makes me a little bit more confident in Mel Costa this week. So give me Mel Costa. I'll say first round knockout. Moving on, we have a fight that, I'm not sure what the UFC is doing here. Again, it's probably because this card has needed a lot of help. There were barely any fights, and they're like, okay, why not put Carlos Vera into the UFC? It just makes no sense to me, but we'll break it down anyway. We got Daniel Marcos going against Carlos Vera. We got Daniel Marcos, 30 years old, 5'7", with a 69-inch reach, 15-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Carlos Vera, 36 years old, 5'6", with a 69.5-inch reach, 11-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Daniel Marcos opening up a pretty big favorite around like the minus 300 range. Vera opening up around minus 250 or plus 250. And then now money has came in on Marcos. Marcos minus 400 and Vera plus 330. Again, very questionable signing. I guess they couldn't find another bantamweight in the UFC. So they had to bring in Carlos Vera for some reason. Vera, a 36-year-old bantamweight that was on The Ultimate Fighter, lost to Brad Katona. I mean, this should be an easy fight for Daniel Marcos. I think this is a step down in competition for Daniel Marcos. Daniel Marcos has Beat Davy Grant in his last fight. A lot of people thought that he lost the fight. I personally did score the fight for Davy Grant, but was able to go out there nonetheless to get the win. Had that good win against Simon Oliveira as well with that TKO in the second round. So, yeah, Marcos, he's very good. He's 15-0. It's a step down in competition from a guy like Davy Grant. I think it's a good matchup for him. I think he dictates where this fight takes place. Should be the much better striker. Should be a walk in the park here for Marcos in a fight that just doesn't make any sense other than just adding another fight to this card randomly. So give me Daniel Marcos to win this fight. I'll say he wins this fight by decision. Vera's very tough. He's never been knocked out. Has been submitted twice, but Marcos, no subs on his record. So give me Marcos, and Marcos by decision. Moving on. Oh my gosh. Rayanne dos Santos going against Talita Alencar. We got dos Santos, 28 years old, 5'2", with a 62-inch reach, 14-6 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Alencar, 33 years old, 5'1", with a 58.5-inch reach, 4-0-1 and 4-0-1 in her only 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that dos Santos opened up a dog, plus 125. Currently minus 150, and then Alencar opened up as a minus 145 favorite, and she is currently sitting as a plus 130 underdog. So this was one of like the late ads for this card. So this card originally had like 8 fights on it, and then they added like 2 just ridiculous fights. I think they added this fight, and then they added the Anthony Smith Khalil Rountree fight, which is a great fight. But this fight I have a little bit of a problem with because Talita Alencar went to a draw on the Contender Series, and I think both the fighters involved in that draw got a contract. Luciano, I think, was the other fighter involved. And yeah, Alencar looked good for the first 5 minutes, and then she looked really tired after the first round. She was still able to squeak out the second round, just completely exhausted. And in the third round, just completely exhausted. Got 10-8 in the third round, showed no cardio, showed great toughness, but getting 10-8 in the third round was not the best look, but Dana White liked it, and he gave them both contracts. And then you got Rayanne dos Santos, who lost on the Contender Series against Denise Gomes. The fight really wasn't remotely competitive, and I'm just not sure either fighter is really, UFC caliber here. I think this is a fight they're just throwing on here to add more fights onto this card, because, I don't know, I mean, Alencar has good jiu-jitsu. She's a BJJ black belt, very, very good grappler. Okay wrestling, very sloppy on her entries at times. She shoots into flying knees a lot. She loves getting kneed in the face on takedowns. Doesn't have the best cardio, as we saw in the Contender Series fight. So, and then doesn't have the best striking at all. She wanted nothing to do with the striking on the Contender Series, just nothing at all. Whereas you got Rayanne dos Santos, 6 losses in her career. I don't think she's really great everywhere, but she's going to be the better striker automatically. Even though I don't think her strike is that good, she's the better striker. I think she's going to have the better cardio. I think her takedown defense is solid, and then she's a BJJ black belt in her own right. I mean, this is about as low level as it gets. I know people get really offended when I say that, but I mean, it's a low level fight. I'm gonna take Rayanne dos Santos to win this fight by decision, stuffing the takedowns, having the better cardio, and having the slightly better striking. So give me Rayanne dos Santos to win this fight by decision. I can't believe I just broke down this fight for a UFC card. Moving on, we got Luana Santos going against Stephanie Egger. We got Luana Santos, 23 years old, 5'6", with a 67-inch reach, 6-1, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Stephanie Egger, she is 35 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach, 8-4, and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Luana Santos opening up minus 210, currently minus 190. Stephanie Egger opening up plus 180, currently plus 165. Yeah, this is a very close fight in my opinion. I think these fighters are pretty similar. Both these fighters are judo black belts. Both these fighters have some solid jiu-jitsu as well. And Luana Santos went out there in her debut against Juliana Miller and looked like just incredible. I mean, she went out there, she hurt Juliana Miller on several occasions, and she went out there and knocked out Juliana Miller in the very first round. As far as Stephanie Egger, I think people are very low on her right now after going out there and getting submitted in the first round by Irina Alexeyeva, but that was kind of like a flukish type situation there. I think if they ran that back, Stephanie Egger should go out there and I think like a lot of people thought, beat Irina Alexeyeva, but Alexeyeva got that knee bar. It is what it is. But yeah, I went back and watched Santos' fights outside of the Miller fight, and yeah, she's making a lot of mistakes on the mat. She's getting her back taken a lot. She's very, very sloppy when the fight hits the ground. I've seen her, get reversed. I've seen her get her back taken. I've seen her, get stuck on bottom. And I feel like Stephanie Egger can kind of potentially get this fight down to the mat herself and win minutes on top. In terms of the striking, I don't think either fighter is the best striker in the world, but I would favor Luana Santos there. But she can be very sloppy in the striking. It almost looks like she's like slapping in there. I mean, it worked against Juliana Miller. Not sure who else it's going to work against in the UFC. But yeah, I actually expect this fight to take place a lot on the ground and against the cage as well. And at that point, I think Edgar can have some success here. But yeah, this is a close fight. The line doesn't indicate that at all. I'm not really sure why Luana Santos is minus 190. But apparently people were really impressed with her debut, which rightfully so. She looked good, but she looked good against Juliana Miller. Stephanie Eggers fought some very good competition in the UFC. Tracy Cortez, Mara Bueno Silva, Eileen Perez. She beat Eileen Perez, which is aging very, very well. So, yeah, I'm going to take Egger here as a dog. I think it's a lot closer than this line does indicate. All right, moving on, we got Kevin Jousset going against Song Kenan. We got Kevin Jousset, 30 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. 9-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Song Kenan, 33 years old, 6 foot with a 71.5-inch reach, 21-7 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds. We have Kevin Jousset opening up minus 225, currently minus 155. Song Kenan opening up plus 190, currently plus 135. This money line is coming down a little bit. People taking some dog shots on Song Kenan, and yeah, I agree. I think this is another close fight. Kevin Jousset looked really good in his debut, but that was a fight where I think it was in Perth, and it felt to me like they just threw the fight on the cards because Kevin Jousset trains at City Kickboxing. And then they put him against Kiefer Crosby, who's just not UFC caliber, and he went out there and handled him accordingly. He was only like minus 155 against Kiefer Crosby as well, believe it or not. So about the same price tag here. I mean, Song Kenan would destroy Kiefer Crosby in the first round, I think. So, yeah, this is a step up in competition, in my opinion, for Kevin Jousset. Like, Song Kenan's fought some very good fighters in the UFC. Ian Gary. He fought Ian Gary. He hurt Ian Gary in the first round. Almost had Ian Gary out of there in the first round. Pulled off a big upset against Rolando Bedoya, a guy that people were very excited about. Fought guys like Max Griffin, Alex Morono. So, yeah, Song Kenan's fought some really good guys. Kevin Jousset, I don't know, he's low volume in most of his fights. He's very hittable. Not a big sample size, but in that Kiefer Crosby fight, he sported a 33% striking defense. And Kiefer Crosby was having success, striking against this guy, which is very concerning in my opinion, because I don't think Kiefer Crosby's that great. Kiefer Crosby outlanded him 39-29. Crosby kind of gassed out. He got taken down and insta-tapped. But again, I don't think Crosby's UFC caliber. Whereas Song Kenan, I think he is. I think the striking is going to be very competitive. I like the volume of Song Kenan. I like the power, especially of Song Kenan. And I don't like the striking defense of Kevin Jousset. So, close fight. I think this fight potentially goes the distance. But yeah, I like the power of Song. I think Song can land some big shots here, maybe hurt Jousset a couple times. Jousset's next level tough, though, so I'm not sure he finishes him. But I'll say Song Kenan goes out there and wins a decision, a very close and competitive one at that. So give me a Song Kenan to pull off the upset and win this fight by decision. All right, moving on. We got Tatsuro Taira going against Carlos Hernandez. We got Tatsuro Taira, 23 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 14-0, obviously 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Carlos Hernandez, 30 years old, 5'8", with a 67-inch reach, 9-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Taira opened up minus 650, currently minus 500. Carlos Hernandez opened up plus 475, currently plus 385. And yeah, should be a solid fight here for Tatsuro Taira. It should be a fight that he goes out there and wins and potentially in dominant fashion. Carlos Hernandez, he's solid. I like Carlos Hernandez. I think his takedown defense is okay, just okay. I think his striking's solid. I like the volume. He's a well-rounded guy. I think he's even a black belt in BJJ, but he's been sub before in the UFC. We saw Allan Nascimento take his back and choke him out in the first round. I've seen him taken down multiple times, so I think Taira should have no problem with taking this fight down to the mat. Taira, I think, is an okay striker. I think the striking is definitely coming along, but the best part of Taira's game is just the grappling. Very, very slick grappling from Taira. Very good back takes, very good transitions. I love the transition to the armbar. He gets it pretty much every time. So yeah, I think Taira should be able to get takedowns here. I don't think they'll be too hard to come by. And then once his fight hits the mat, it's Taira's world. So I don't know if it comes in the first. I don't know if it comes in the second. I don't know if it comes in the third, but I think it does come. So I'll say Taira by sub here. I'll say first round sub. I think he takes this fight down to the mat and styles on Hernandez. So give me Taira first round sub in this one. All right. Yeah, sorry for the jump scare on that HyunSung Park picture. I don't know why it's so close up. But yeah, HyunSung Park going against Shannon Ross. We got HyunSung Park, 28 years old, 5'7", with a 66-inch reach, 8-0 and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Shannon Ross, 34 years old, 5'6" with a 66-inch reach, 13-8 and 1-4 in his last 5 fights. We have Park as one of the biggest favorites on the card. I think Taira and Park are both tied for the biggest favorite right now. We got HyunSung Park opening up -300, currently -500. Shannon Ross opening up +250, currently +275. I think this line's hilarious, to be honest, because I don't think HyunSung Park's that great. It's just he's going against Shannon Ross. It's one of those situations where, yeah, Park's not the best fighter in the world. Honestly, very underwhelming performance in his debut. But it kind of took him a little bit to get going. It took him like to the 3rd round to get going. But once he got going, he got the fight down to the mat and got a 3rd round submission. But I wasn't incredibly impressed with that performance. He's taken on Shannon Ross, where I remember researching this, Shannon Ross's fight on Contender Series, and I was actually somewhat impressed with Ross. I think he has skills, but the big problem with Ross, I think everybody knows it, that's why Park's -500 now, it's just the durability. I mean, I had Jesus Aguilar to win the fight inside the distance against Ross. I bet the inside the distance. I was not expecting Aguilar to knock out Ross, and I was definitely not expecting Aguilar to knock out Ross in like 20 seconds. I mean, it was ridiculous. Jesus Aguilar has a 62-inch reach, which has to be the shortest reach in the flyweight division, in UFC in general, in terms of a male, right? And then Jesus Aguilar had 0 knockouts prior to the Shannon Ross fight. And not only did he knock out Ross, but he knocked him out with like the first punch that landed. And I was there live. I was celebrating my win, and then Ross still wasn't getting up. I was like, I'm concerned for this guy. I kind of feel bad. Like, is Ross, are you all right? Because it was a brutal knockout. I mean, this guy's been getting brutally knocked out, brutally knocked down. Kletson knocked him out in 58 seconds. Aguilar knocked him out in like 20 seconds. Vinicius Salvador, I don't think is UFC caliber, dropped him 3 times. I mean, this guy, Shannon Ross, has just shown no durability. So, although skill for skill, I think these guys are a lot closer than the line does indicate. I mean, how can you pick Shannon Ross if he's getting knocked out with, anything that's landing at this point? So, with that said, though, Park's not a murderous power puncher, but neither was Jesus Aguilar. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going Park here. I'm kind of leaning like a club and sub. Park's grappling's good, but I think he's going to have to hurt Ross on the feet first, which shouldn't be too hard. So, yeah, give me Park here. I'll take him to win this fight by 2nd or 3rd round club and sub. All right, moving on. I got so confused for a second. I thought I made a mistake. I thought this was Kelvin Gastelum. I thought, why is this on here? This was last week. That got me. That scared me. But yeah, Nasrat Haqparast. And maybe it is Gastelum. Maybe Gastelum is trying to come back a week later and right his wrong. That was his last fight against Sean Brady. I don't know. That could be happening. But we got Nasrat Haqparast going against Jamie Mullarkey. We got Haqparast, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach, 15-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Jamie Mullarkey, 29 years old, 6 foot, with a 74-inch reach, 17-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Nasrat Haqparast opening up -185, currently -220. Jamie Mullarkey opening up +160, currently +185. There's been some line movement on Haqparast the last 24 or so hours. When I was looking at this fight, Haqparast was around like the -185 area. I think people are starting to realize that Jamie Mullarkey is just not as good as some people think. I mean, this guy was a massive favorite against Naimov, got knocked out. He was like -600. And he was a massive favorite against Makdessi in a fight that really could have went either way. I personally scored it for Makdessi, but the judges saw it differently. It probably came down to the 2nd round where Mullarkey outlanded Makdessi almost 2-1, but Mullarkey did get dropped late in the 2nd round. And then in the 3rd round, Mullarkey got outlanded a decent bit. So I don't know what the judges thought, though. But yeah, I thought Makdessi beat him. But yeah, now we got Haqparast as the favorite here, and I think it's warranted. Yeah, Haqparast, I was impressed with his performance against Landon Quinones. He went out there and landed around 170 significant strikes. He gave Landon Quinones everything he could take. I mean, I was shocked that Quinones was able to kind of hang in there. Haqparast hurt him on multiple occasions. Haqparast even battled some adversity in that fight, getting his legs kicked off in the 1st round, was able to battle through it and still go out there and land that much volume. He's taken on Jamie Mullarkey, who's just too hittable for me. I mean, this guy's striking defense isn't great. I don't think Mullarkey has the best chin, getting dropped by Makdessi, Naimov, Michael Johnson. I think Brad Riddell even knocked him down a couple times. I mean, Jalen Turner knocked this guy down. So, yeah, I don't think he has the best durability, and you don't have the best striking defense, and that's just not a good combination against a guy like Haqparast who can dish out volume and can dish out power as well. So, yeah, I think Haqparast knocks him out, but we're not getting a big underdog price on Jamie Mullarkey. I mean, I think the market has been really overrating Jamie Mullarkey as of late. I think that it's come back down to earth a little bit, and I think this line's probably about right, even maybe a little bit too wide. I think we're discrediting Jamie Mullarkey a little bit, but in terms of a winner, I got to go Haqparast here. I'm actually going to take Haqparast and knock out Jamie Mullarkey at some point in this fight. Call it second round. Moving on, we have Jung Young Park going against Andre Muniz. We got Jung Young Park, 32 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 17-5 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Andre Muniz, 33 years old, 6'1", with a 78-inch reach, 23-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. I'll take a look at the odds here. Jung Young Park is the favorite. He opened at -275, currently -190. Andre Muniz opened up +235, currently +165. And yeah, a fight that I'm kind of struggling with. I think, everybody's really low on Andre Muniz at this point. But we got to take a look at his last 2 fights, right? His last 2 losses come against incredible grapplers. Brendan Allen, BJJ black belt, very, very dangerous on the mat. And then Paul Craig, BJJ black belt, very, very dangerous on the mat. And Andre Muniz is a dangerous grappler himself. He's a BJJ black belt, one of the best grapplers in the division. I mean, this guy went out there and submitted Jacare Souza, snapped his arm. I mean, that doesn't happen by accident. Andre Muniz is his jiu-jitsu is at a very high level. But his last 2 fights, he's kind of turned into a striker. I mean, this he stopped going for takedowns, started to rely a lot more on his striking, and that's just not his game at all. And it shows. He completed 0 takedowns against Brendan Allen, just inexcusable. And it took him to the second round to wrestle against Paul Craig. So, but this is a fight where I think he goes back to wrestling here, and he needs to. And for Muniz to win this fight, I think it is going to have to be early. A lot of Muniz's wins come early in the fight. Submitted Eric Anders in the first round, submitted Jacare Souza in the first round, submitted Fabinski in the first round, submitted Taylor Johnson in the first round on Contender Series. A lot of his wins do come early, and when fights do get extended, he doesn't look that great. I don't think he has the best cardio. I mean, the Paul Craig fight, he gassed out, ended up on bottom, and got pounded out. Against Brendan Allen, got subbed against Brendan Allen in the third round. So, and you can't gas out against a guy like Jung Young Park, because Park's going to push a pace. He's going to bring a ton of volume. He's going to break you with that pressure, like he has been doing. Park back-to-back submission wins for him. Submitting Joseph Holmes, Albert Drive, and Dennis Tuoluen, 3 atrocious grapplers, but, 3 submissions nonetheless. If he submitted Andre Muniz, that'd be incredible, but how I kind of see it playing out is I think for Park to win this fight, he's going to have to survive those first 5 minutes. And if this fight hits the second round, it's Park all day. It's just, I think Muniz is going to get some opportunities here early. I think we're all counting out Muniz a little bit too much, but at the same time, it's hard to pick a guy like Muniz, who has about 5 minutes of gas to go out there and beat Park, who's just been looking really good lately. So, I don't know. I'm going to pick Park here to win this fight. I'll say he does weather that early storm and breaks Muniz down the stretch, finishing him in the third round via TKO. But Muniz's first round sub is very much on the table, I think. But give me Park. I trust him more. I'm going to take him to win by third round TKO. All right. Moving on, we got Allan Nascimento going against Sumudaerji. We got Nascimento, 32 years old, 5'8", with a 69.5-inch reach, 20-6 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Sumudaerji, 27 years old, 5'8", with a 72-inch reach, 16-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. And we have Nascimento opening at -235, currently -310. Sumudaerji opening at +200, currently +260. Very fun fight here. Striker versus grappler matchup here. I guess what's interesting about this fight, something that's very important to note, Sumudaerji has 5 losses. All 5 of those losses come by submission. Anytime we've seen Sumudaerji off his back, he's looked atrocious. He's getting subbed. So, in theory, Allan Nascimento, it probably takes 1 takedown, but not even that. Like, he could take the back like he did against Carlos Hernandez. Nascimento's grappling is very, very good. His striking's coming along, but he's not going to want to strike with Sumudaerji. I think Sumudaerji is a very good striker. He's pretty big for the division, has that big reach as well, reach advantage in this fight, a ton of power. Yeah, Nascimento's not going to want to strike with this guy. So yeah, I mean, this is about a striker versus grappler as it gets. I mean, if Sumudaerji is able to stuff the takedowns, keep it standing, he's going to look like a big favorite. But if Allan Nascimento gets a takedown here, I think he looks like a big favorite, and I think that's the more likely scenario. I think Allan Nascimento gets it down to the mat and finds a sub here. Allan Nascimento, he's a guy that I don't think he really has the best wrestling in the world at all. But he's a guy where his wrestling looks to be improving. Was able to land 2 takedowns against Carlos Hernandez. Was able to land 2 takedowns against Jake Hadley. So yeah, I think the wrestling's getting better from Nascimento compared to where it was earlier in his career, which was just completely non-existent. But yeah, if he gets his fight down on the mat once, that is probably it. So give me Nascimento. I think he has a significant advantage on the mat. I think he gets it down there and submits Sumudaerji in the very first round. All right, moving on to the co-main event. We got Khalil Rountree going against Anthony Smith. We got Khalil Rountree, 33 years old, 6'1", with a 76.5-inch reach, 12-5 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Anthony Smith, 35 years old, 6'4", with a 76-inch reach, 37-18 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We have Khalil Rountree. He opened up, believe it or not, plus 210. He's currently minus 225, and I know some people that actually was able to get Rountree at plus 210. It opened up about a week ago. And Anthony Smith opened up minus 250. He's currently plus 190. Just a ridiculous opener, but people were able to take advantage of that. So yeah, I mean, Khalil Rountree, the story with him throughout his entire career has always been kind of which Khalil is going to show up. Is it going to be, Bangkok, Thailand Khalil, where he took some time, went to Thailand, came back, and looked like a new fighter against Anders, or is it going to be the Khalil Rountree that gets finished in the first round by Ion Kudalaba, by Tyson Pedro, by Marcin Prachnio? I mean, losing a decision to Marcin Prachnio. So there's times where Rountree shows up, he looks great. There's times where Rountree shows up and just looks checked out, looks done, looks awful. So, but with that said, as of late, it's just been the good Rountree just showing up nonstop. I mean, it's been a great run for Khalil Rountree, brutally knocking out Modestas Bukauskas with that leg injury. The Carl Roberson knockout was one of the most brutal, just mean knockouts. I mean, he beat the crap out of Carl Roberson. Won a decision against Justin Jacoby. I thought he lost, but the fact that it was that competitive, impressive. And then just knocked out Christakis, one of the most unnecessary follow-up shots I've ever seen. Poor Christakis. So yeah, Rountree, 4 fights in a row, 4 good performances. Yeah. So yeah, Rountree's been looking good. He's been looking consistent, which consistency is not really something we see a ton through Rountree throughout his career. So that's good. He's being consistent. In steps Anthony Smith on short notice. I don't like that. Anthony Smith has a ton of fights. Well, how many fights does Anthony Smith have? I think it's like 55? 55? Yeah, 55 fights for Anthony Smith. He's obviously taken a ton of damage. He's been finished 14 times in his career. I don't like the short notice, and I don't like, kind of the opposite with Rountree. I don't like these last performances from Smith. The Ryan Spann fight, I thought that was more on just Ryan Spann beating himself there. Ryan Spann was this close to finishing Anthony Smith in the second round, couldn't quite get him out of there. And then Ryan Spann just stopped fighting, which was interesting throughout the rest of the fight. But yeah, he won the fight, Anthony Smith, and then he fought Johnny Walker, and I did not like that performance either. He kind of gave up, it looked like, Anthony Smith in that third round. He was kind of looking for a way out in that third round. Johnny Walker didn't quite put it on him, and then he got finished by Magomed Ankalaev in that fight. I think there's an injury. So yeah, the last 3 performances haven't been great from Smith, but he's a veteran, and in theory, he potentially has a path to victory here. Like, if Smith gets a takedown, I think he could potentially find a submission here. We've seen Rountree just look terrible anytime he's taken down, but kind of a big if in my opinion. I think Rountree should stuff the takedowns here, and if he does, I think he puts a beat down on Smith here and probably finishes him in the first round. So I'm going to go Khalil Rountree. He's been looking like a monster lately. I don't like how Anthony Smith's been looking lately. I don't like the short notice for Anthony Smith, and I think Khalil Rountree comes in here and knocks out Anthony Smith in the first round. Forget who Rountree was supposed to fight originally, but he was supposed to fight somebody last week. Mirzakhanov, I think it was. Mirzakhanov had to pull out, and then in steps Anthony Smith. They put it on this card. So, yeah, I like Rountree here. Rountree first round knockout for me. All right, main event, we got Song Yadong going against Chris Gutierrez. We got Song Yadong, 26 years old, 5'8" with a 67-inch reach, 27-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Chris Gutierrez, 32 years old, 5'9" with a 67-inch reach, 24-4-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Song Yadong, big favorite, open at -255, currently -350. Chris Gutierrez open up +215, currently +275. And yeah, interesting fight. I'm not really sure what they're doing here with the matchmaking. I would have liked to see Song Yadong fight somebody up a little bit higher in the rankings because he just beat Ricky Simone, which is an incredible win. Lost to Corey Sandhagen in a fight that was pretty competitive up until that doctor stoppage, which was good. Knocked out Marlon Moraes, knocked out Julio Arce. So, yeah, I would have liked to see him fight somebody up. You know, I feel like it's kind of a step in the wrong direction, if you will. But, yeah, it should be a fun fight. Chris Gutierrez, obviously incredible leg kicks, but that's really about it. I think his hands are fine, but Song Yadong is going to have the much better striking here in terms of the boxing. I like the striking of Song Yadong, very fast hands here. The power, especially, of Song Yadong is incredible. When Song Yadong's kind of struggling, outside like the Sandhagen fight, but when he's really struggling, it's when guys are taking him down. Kyler Phillips took him down 3 times. Stamen took him down 5 times. Even Marlon Vera took him down a couple times as well. And that's not Chris Gutierrez. Chris Gutierrez is not completing takedowns here. I think, if anything, Song Yadong might be able to flip the script and take down Chris Gutierrez here. You know, Team Alpha Male guy. I could see it, potentially. But, yeah, primarily, I think this fight's going to stay standing. You got the leg kicks of Gutierrez. You got the striking of Song Yadong in terms of the hands, in terms of the power as well. And we got Song Yadong with that 5-round experience. He just knocked out Ricky Simone in the 5th. We saw him against Corey Sandhagen go into the 4th round. Chris Gutierrez, it's going to be, I believe, his first 5-round fight. I think the cardio advantage should go to Song Yadong. The wrestling advantage should go to Song Yadong. The power advantage should go to Song Yadong. And on top of that, this guy's much younger as well. So I think a lot of reasons to like Song Yadong. I don't like the line, but I'll pick him to win this fight. I'm thinking by decision. Chris Gutierrez is super durable. So, yeah, give me Song Yadong. Song Yadong here to win by decision. There you guys have it. Thank you for watching. If you guys could, leave a like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel. Be on the lookout for more content throughout the week. Prize Picks content, DraftKings content, betting content, you name it. You'll find it here on DFS by the numbers. So you guys, best of luck. Enjoy the card, and we'll talk to you very soon.